Hi, welcome back to the farm. My name's Roz, also known as Passion Flower, and you'll find me here each week talking about my farming and creative life. It is so dry here now, and looking at the weather forecast, every day is just no rain, no rain, no rain. So the paddocks are extremely dry. The dams are starting to recede a little bit, and the grass is just not growing at all. We are having cooler nights now, so most mornings we are getting a little bit of dew, so that may help with a little bit of grass growth, but not compared to actually getting some proper rain. So we're still, from time to time, pumping water back from here at the shed over to the house because we just don't have enough water at the house because we just haven't had any rain to replenish what we've been using. And I have moved the sheep into the grass area out here by the shed because there was a little bit of green and I was using the sprinkler on it. So I'm letting them in there for a few days just to give them a little bit of a treat. And then I'll probably give them some grain to entice them back into their main paddock, which is super dry. No green grass at all, but they do have plenty of hay that they can eat, but it's just not as interesting and enjoyable as green grass because they are always so excited to get in there. Once they're out of there again, I will put the sprinkler back onto that area for a few hours a day to try and promote that growth so that I can swap them back and forth a little bit. And as you can see, I'm actually wearing a jumper this morning. It's a little bit cool, so and grey actually. So maybe we're moving into some more autumnal weather, but as I said, it's still going to be super dry. I did manage to get one session of spraying in again this week for the blackberries. So pretty much finished all of the paddocks now. There's probably a small section of the One Tree Hill paddock that we didn't quite get to, but we certainly got most of it. So if we are at the point where they need to take the spray rig to use for somewhere else, we've done a fair amount, and we now know that if we are able to continue to use it, we've just got that back section to do of that paddock, and if we don't, that's okay. So then the plan will be next year to actually start on One Tree Hill paddock, the bit that we didn't get to, and then work our way back the other way. And we didn't even get into the bush this year either. I think because we did have quite a few extreme weather days in terms of heat and wind, so that restricted what we're able to do. And just in terms of time as well, with holidays and all that sort of thing, and me starting a new job, there's just been a change in routine and how everything can get done. So, it is what it is, and we've made some good progress, and we'll continue to do as much as we can. I got back into dyeing yarn this week, DK, as I said that I was going to, because my stocks are quite low because all of the previously dyed stock has been put into the Clementine cow kits that are with Barley from Tea Time Yarn Retreats. We are still working on how we're going to list those online. I think what's going to happen is she will put them in her website and then I will link to her page so that we're not having to do like double handling and worrying about stock if it like sells on one and then we don't want it to sell on the other because we only have limited numbers. So I think that's how we're going to do it. And as soon as that's all set up, I will let you know. I think the plan will also be that once I am heavily into markets, which will be sort of June, July, August, I will grab those kits if there's any left from her so that I can take them to have them on display on my table as well. So back to the dyeing of DK yarn. So I've done some tonal solid colours this week. I've done sea green, smoke, blush, and lilac. I also had a little bit of a play. I accidentally put 4 extra skeins in to soak when I was doing the batches, and I was like, I don't really want to think about what normal color I'm going to do. So I thought I'd just have a bit of a play with those 4 skeins. So I laid them out in a pan and I grabbed some of my almost empty dye powder jars and I put some water in them and shook them up and just sort of poured water over the top of the skeins just to play around with color. So I've done 4 of those one of a kind skeins, and they will be available on my market stalls. I'm not going to list them online just because the time and effort that it takes to photograph and list and everything for a product that I only have one of. And I know markets are coming up, so they'll be nice and bright and fun to have on my stand because they're a little bit different to what I do in my normal recipes. Yeah, it's easier to just have them on a market stall rather than have to list them on my website. So I'm going to try and get another batch of the sort of semi-solid tonal colors done. I'll probably do While the Sun Shines, Olive, Rose Hip, and haven't decided on the 4th other color. I'll have to have a look at what I've got and sort of mix and match through. So if there's a particular solid that you like, let me know and I can make sure I have some of that ready to go. And once I've got the range of solids done, then I'm going to add in some variegated DKs that go along with those colors so that they can match to a clementine cowl if that's what you're interested in, but also so that you could do maybe a yoke of a sweater in a different color or something like that. And I've gone through the calendar and I have about a month, I think, till my first market. I'm starting quite late in the season, so there's been Mooroolbark and there's been the Australian Yarn Show, but because of other things that I've had going on, I was not able to participate in either of those. So my market season's starting a little bit late, and I kind of had a little bit of FOMO last week looking at all of the Instagram posts from everyone who was vending or attending those markets, but I will be getting out there. So now I need to plan backwards from those dates and start to make sure I've got enough inventory. I'm working on some smaller things as well, some scrap packs and things like that, which I've had previously. And knowing that I'm going to have consecutive weekends of markets, so I'm not going to have a lot of dye time in between. I might be able to get 1 or 2 colors done that sell out, but I'm not going to be able to do a whole lot of inventory in between each week. So I am getting a whole lot done over the next few weeks as much as I can, and hopefully try to allocate that out a little bit and plan what I might take to a particular market or not take, to make sure that I've got a nice full stand, but that I'm not taking too much stock and spreading myself too thin. I also bought some new pans this week after playing around with the powder dye experiment. I was sort of tipping things on, having it all laid out flat. I thought that I would try doing a few other colorways that way. It's sort of it's a quicker way than the full immersion dyeing that I've been doing lately. And it was really fun. So to have the option to do bigger batches of those or to do multiple colors at the same time. So I thought it was a good idea to grab some more so that I have a bit more flexibility in my dye schedule. It's been a few weeks since I've actually shown you any knitting progress. Last week, I just showed you my yarn haul, and the week before was an unfinished objects whip show. So it was all things that had been sitting for a while and not any of my current projects. So I have a few things on the needles at the moment. So I will show you those in a minute. But what I wanted to say first is that surprisingly, I actually don't have any socks on the needles right now, which is really rare for me. I think I should probably put a pair of socks on the needles so that I have something that I can sit and knit at lunchtime at work to do without taking a big project, because that's nice and small. I did take yarn to make socks while I was on the cruise, but I did not touch those at all. So I now have all this, knowing all of these whips that I have that are sort of out there, not finished. And I'm not quite inspired to work on any of them right now. I think as this weather gets colder, I'll probably pick up the honeycomb shawl blanket thing and start to work on that. I did order some more of the Drover contrast color that goes around the colored hand spun yarn. So I will be able to make it nice and big. But I'm sort of focused on what I have, but also kind of want to start new things as well. Isn't that always the way, especially when you've just bought new yarn? So even though I was on a knitting cruise, I don't feel like I knit all that much. The days were quite warm, but also when I was sitting out on the ship, I would just sit and watch the ocean and people and just lay out my knitting and look at it and do a little bit and then lay it out and look at it again. So I didn't spend anywhere near as much time knitting as I thought that I could, or that a lot of other people in the group did. I did start the Paris, which is this textured vest, using the recycled denim yarn that I made the Daybreak tee out of, because it's nice and soft and it's also like not too hot to knit with your hands. So while I was on the ship, I knit from the bottom here up to this marker, and since I've got home, I've knit a bit more, but I've run into a bit of an issue and I probably need some technical advice here. So they've got bobbles, but as you can see, they kind of just fade into nothing. They're only a 3-stitch bobble and they kind of disappear. I mean, they're there, but they're very flat. The second row of bobbles that I did does show up a little bit better. I sort of tightened up how I was doing it. But then on my third row of bobbles, I've somehow managed to create weird holes. And I don't know how, because these ones seem all nice and now this one's got weird bits in it. So I'm not really happy with how the texture's coming out. I think it's going to look really pretty, and as you can see, the bobbles that I actually did properly look really nice. And even like from back here, you can see the texture, but the other two are not popping at all. So I think I'm going to rip this out. It's probably something that can go on the back burner, with the idea that I can pick it up at some point and restart it, especially given all of the projects that I have or want to knit. So I'm okay with that. And I'm going to look into some different tutorials and ways to make the bobbles pop, because as you can see, I was great there, and then obviously my tension changed and they're just all over the shop. So that one is going to be ripped out. What I worked on most on the cruise was the Clementine Cow by Barley from Tea Time Yarn Retreats. And so I've finished all of the ripple section. And I think I was probably about here when I got back from the cruise. And so I've done a little bit more this past week. So, and this is a provisional cast on, so I can join it by just grafting it together. And now I'm up to the textured section. The textured section will be as long as this, and then it'll join to make a double loop cow. And it's really pretty. And again, this is a 4-row stitch repeat. These sections, each ripple was a 4-row stitch repeat. So it's nice and easy. And once you get into the groove, you don't really have to think too much. And I'm using While the Sun Shines is the yellow, and this is Morning Glow. And it's really pretty, and I'm excited to wear it. I think the combination of the two stitch patterns together is going to, when you've got them like wrapped around your neck, it'll look really lovely. So that had seen quite a bit of work. The other thing I worked on while I was on the cruise, and it didn't take me all that long, but it was a colour swatch for the Evanescence jacket by Joji Locatelli. There it is there. So she uses 6 colours of a mohair. So I bought 6 colours and I was trying to figure out how I was going to gradate them through. So you go 2 strands of one colour, and then you pick up colour B and you use colour A and colour B together. Then you use colour B, and then you use colour B and colour C together. And that's how you get the gradation through the jacket. So first what I did, and this is some of the time that I spent out on the deck of the boat, I found a nice quiet spot at the aft and just like laid out my balls of yarn in different orders to try and figure out how I was going to swatch for this jacket. So I had already had two colors of this yarn. I had the champagne, and I had hang on, I've got all my tags here to know and the azure. So I had these two of Ray Sparkle, and they're quite big balls, so I'd have plenty to make this jacket if I was able to get matching colors to go with. So I ordered another four from Wine Craft Cafe, and Kate bought them with her on the cruise so that I could start to play around with the colors and get some advice from people. So I had these two, and then I also bought wisteria, rose quartz, I can't hold them all, glacier, and oasis. So that is the colors that I got. Now, I started to play around with them and I laid them out, and I'll pop in some pictures here of all of the different variations of color combos. And obviously there's plenty of color combos that this could possibly be. Once I started to swatch though, I realized that this one and this one are actually much too dark, especially when they're just held as they're solid. Even if I put it at the bottom or at the top, it's just too much compared to these much more subdued tones here. So, I can't show you all of them. There we go. So, I'd originally started to swatch and I'd put both of these in, and they just didn't look right, because then you match them with these lighter colors, it makes this color stand out too much. So I've decided to just use these four. First, I thought only three. I wasn't going to include the blue. I'd sort of put it in a spot and it didn't look right. So I've knit. This was my first swatch, and I did have this teal at the bottom, but I ripped it out because I knew that it wasn't going to be how I was going to go. So I started with the rose quartz, and then the wisteria, and then the champagne, and then the glacier. And I wasn't super happy. I don't like the way that this light blue looks here. It doesn't look that nice in this blend with the champagne. So I tried to just do three colors. Ignore the blue at the bottom. As you can see, it really makes that darker blue too, I don't know, don't like it. So I started with the wisteria at the top because I do like a purple near my face, and then into the rose quartz, and then into the champagne. I thought that's actually really pretty. I could just do three. So I started to do the maths on the three, and I think that it would be lovely, but you'd have to remember that each of those panels would be much, much larger than that, obviously. I still have plenty of yarn, that will be fine. But I thought maybe I could try a different order. So I wasn't, because this glacier with the champagne, I just didn't like. So I tried it with the wisteria, then by itself, and then with the rose quartz. And I really like that. And it actually changes the color of the blue. So you can imagine that it's going to go wisteria, wisteria and glacier, glacier, glacier and rose quartz, rose quartz, rose quartz and champagne, champagne. So I think that It's really hard to show you. So that will sort of slip in there, and then it picks back up again. There. I might lay these out and pop the photos in. So I'm back to 4 colors, which I think is going to be much easier. It will make the bands of color shorter than if I only did 3, obviously, but not as short as in her pattern of the 6. But she does give color change instructions for a 4 color version. So rather than have to do my own maths, I can rely on hers a little bit, and it'll make it easier in terms of figuring out the numbers. Um, so yeah, it's super pretty, and I'm really excited to start. Um, which is why I kind of want to not do the other Paris top, so that I can justify casting this on. So I haven't cast it on yet, but I think that this could be the week. Well, that's it for another week. Thanks for spending some time with me. If you're enjoying these videos, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and look forward to seeing you next week on the farm. Bye.